Hello and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. This is Jill Bodensteiner, Director of Athletics at St. Joseph's University. As leaders, it's really important that we're clear regarding our goals and our vision and how those integrate into the greater university goals. We also need to collectively create a strategy and a culture that are going to help us reach our goals. This is an evolving exercise that requires an openness to continuous improvement. That's why I follow the One Question Leadership Podcast, because I love learning as much as I possibly can from my colleagues that helps me be the best that I can be. So my message for the day, keep learning, keep leading.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 1Q Leadership. This episode will be hosted by Coach Glenn Caruso. Coach Caruso is the head football coach at University of St. Thomas, which is in Minnesota. Take it away, Coach.
Greetings and welcome back to the One Question Leadership Podcast. I'm Glenn Caruso, head football coach at the University of St. Thomas, and happy to be on with you today. Today I'm going to be joined by a guy whose career I've been able to watch grow tremendously, especially in the last decade, Tony Reno, head football coach at Yale, a guy who has taken over a program and just brought it to an amazing level, a couple of number one finishes in the last few years in the Ivy League, and so happy to have him on. Tony, welcome.
Glenn, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on and look forward to speaking with you.
No doubt. Me too. So let's get into it. Obviously, there's a lot that's going on right now in football, and in college football, there are leagues that are all over the place when it comes to how they're dealing and what they're doing with COVID. The Ivy League was the first to cancel the remainder of the spring season and then to cancel the fall sports season because of the pandemic. And in hindsight now, was one of the leaders in terms of that. Looking back, if you can put yourself back in your shoes last spring, what were your initial thoughts when the Ivy League came out and canceled the remainder of the spring, Coach?
Well, I think we as a league look at ourselves as making decisions always with the student athletes in mind first. I'm not saying others don't. It's just that we're fortunate here in our league where there's a lot of other constraints we're not bound to. And so when we came out and we canceled the spring season, obviously you knew there was something serious. I don't think any of us knew the magnitude of the situation we're in with COVID-19. And when they canceled the spring season, we were actually home. We just got done spring break. We were actually getting back ready to report and start spring practice. And our university told us that, hey, we're going to head home for a bit and might be a week or two, and the kids will be back in school. And then as it extended, then we canceled the spring season. We knew that obviously there was something serious going on, and there was a lot of unknown on what was going to be ahead. And I think the last thing we thought at that time, if you could kind of go back in time, it's like the last thing we thought was that the fall season was going to be in peril. And it's like as things moved on and we got further and further into this, it looked good for a bit that we were going to play in the fall, and then I think that the rug kind of got pulled out from under us in July, and then it became a situation where it wasn't feasible for us to play, and we had to handle the situation and cancel the fall season. So I do give a lot of credit to our presidents and our athletic directors for making the hard decisions and doing so what's best for not only our athletes but our staff as well.
No doubt. And it was a tough decision, but now that you look at it in hindsight, that gives us a little bit perspective. It means that you guys are kind of the forerunners of what was to come. Now that you look back on that moment, I'm sure a lot of people can see that. How has canceling the season changed how you approached not just the mental, but the physical player development, and not just with the players, but your coaching staff too?
It really has. It's been, for us, all of us, it's uncharted waters. I mean, you, us, everybody in the country. And what we looked at it was once the decision came out, I was kind of fortunate enough to have a little bit of time with the team, on our Zoom calls, and I kind of felt like the week or two before that this was going to come, that they were going to cancel the season. So I started slowly outlining it to the team just by how schools in our league were doing their reentry policy and really de-densifying the university and saying, hey, in our league, they're not going to have. We don't have athletic dorms. Our guys, live with all the other students, and that's what makes it so unique. But when that all came out, we kind of had an idea. So what we did with the team was we gave them a jump start on it a couple weeks before, and then when the news came out, it wasn't as tough for them to handle. But what we did was we took 3 weeks off. I gave the team 3 weeks off and said, fellas, I want you to go ride a bike. I want you to go fish. I want you to go, climb a mountain, do something that has nothing to do with football. Be an 18 to 22-year-old. And I mean, these kids have been training their tails off for, since March, and to get ready for a season. So I think that really was, I don't think we really saw the benefit of that until now, where that really helped the guys process things properly and also get themselves organized to truly be where their feet were and be ready for the next challenge ahead. And what I said to them was, I said, guys, we're not going to play till the fall of 21. And what it's going to give us is it's going to give us a whole time for a redshirt semester. And that's what we're looking at this as is, from coaching and from our players is just, we want to take this semester to get, a lot of things that we normally wouldn't have had time to do. And for our guys, it's been really just a strength element to it, just getting back in the weight room. And, our guys are so excited to get under a squat bar again. And,
right. Maybe a little bit refreshed,
again.
Like an absence makes the heart grow fonder type thing, right?
It is. I mean, it's funny you say that, Glenn. It's like I've had so many guys tell me, or our director of sports performance, or our assistants in our sports performance, that they love the weight room, but I mean, it's like they miss it so much that they just can't wait to get back in there every day.
Tony, I've never had this many months. Guys want to hop into the weight room, like never, right? It's unique.
I know.
What's interesting is I look at, for instance, your program, your league, and we all have friends that are all throughout college football, different levels, FCS, BCS, all the different divisions. And one of the things that I keep finding myself saying is, look, our players, probably a lot like yours, I would guess, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there is a balance to their life that they appreciate and they're grateful for. So where maybe a lot of other coaches were dealing with a huge learning curve. I mean, I had more coaches call and say, hey, what does a summer workout look like when 2/3 of your team are all the way across the country doing internships at Washington? How do you do that? And so I think maybe yep. Your league, your school probably has a situation where maybe kids have a little bit less of a learning curve than maybe some of the other parts of the country, right?
No, it's so true. I mean, we're built, fortunately for this situation, we're built for guys, being away from campus for 3 months in the summer, doing the internship or, going home for a bit and working a job. And our guys are, our sports performance and our coaches, we're all built to train remotely really well. And that's really helped us a lot in this situation. And it's helped our players too, because it wasn't like you mentioned, it's not foreign territory for them. It's as long as there's a weight room open, I mean, they're fine. And our guys did a great job, as I'm sure, kids throughout the country did, going to Home Depot and getting cement and making buckets of cement to pick up and, just doing whatever they could do to get themselves, ready to play. And for our coaching staff, really, to answer the other part of your question, we're finally back in the office. We were finally back in last week. And since March, our guys have done an extraordinary job. Our staff has. We've got a really great group of assistants that have done a great job, throughout the whole course of it. Why, not giving a day away and just really, really working hard from home. But getting back was really good. And we've looked at things and said, okay, we're going to have time with our players all fall, which is great, to work on things and, get our young guys ready to play and our older guys better at what they do. But for us as a staff, just do a deeper dive into everything we do and make ourselves better, and where we don't have to worry about a game plan. And that's what we've kind of sat down in early August and said, what are the things we want to get accomplished? And we laid them out. We're week 2 into it. I mean, it's really been some great things that we've been able to, get involved in. And I'm excited to see where it's going to go over the next 3 months.
I've heard more coaches say that exact phrase. I'm excited to see what happens. And look, I mean, in a day and an age, all the more devoted to style over substance and planning and over planning, right? It's like we might have lost some of that childish curiosity to just be inquisitive about, hey, let's see what happens and let's be intuitive. And to your point, you're right. The kids going to Home Depot or Lowe's and getting buckets and finding different creative ways. I mean, all of those things that I think people that are our age probably realize. You probably remember going and knocking on Jimmy's door and saying, hey, do you want to play football in the street? And then you figure it out. And there's probably less and less of that. Well, a positive unintended consequence is that our men were forced to figure something out, create something, risk, fail, learn from it, and develop that processing loop all over again. And I think that's going to be a positive. Are you seeing that already?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there had to be so much, ingenuity and to figure things out rather than things being spoon fed. And, guys had to not just do the norm, but find a way to do things. And a lot of this, and I hate to sound like an old guy, but, a lot of this, the generation that, like you said, they're used to having things organized. Like, they played AAU sports or travel sports, and, very rarely did they go and play pickup games. And now now it's kind of back to that, which I think is really refreshing.
It really is. It's funny because I think we're the same age, and I think we start getting halfway decent maybe with social media, and you have a conversation with one of your players, and you say, "Oh yeah, I'm on Twitter now," and he's like, "Twitter? That's like 4 years old, right?" It's like now you're on Vine, and by the time I get up on that, it's on to something else. But now it was almost impossible to get the kids onto FaceTime 6 months ago, and now I have an influx of players wanting to FaceTime, and it's interesting because they want that connectivity. I think that's an interesting talking point. Is there was a study that came out about a month ago, 45,000 college student athletes, and it was talking about, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'm pretty close here, your biggest stressors, your highest anxiety points based on COVID. And it was 50% was the finances, 63% cited online learning, 68% cited a lack of routine and a structure, which I love, but 77%, Tony, said their biggest stressor is not being around the team, not being around the culture that they recognize. Yeah. And I think that's something that we're all going to have to recognize and reconcile.
Absolutely. And I think that's the hardest part, especially if you're, if you feel strongly in investing in people and investing in relationships. It's really, it's like I was staffing on when I said, when we first got into this and we finally realized that, okay, we're not going to be back on campus for a bit here. And that was the biggest thing for our kids was just, they missed time with each other. And that makes you really proud as a coach in a lot of ways, because that's what we're all trying to create. But it also makes you, it makes you afraid for the kids because they're not going to have it. So, and we've all done, all of us, I think I speak for all the coaches in the country, we've all done our very best through Zoom and all those kind of things to keep your team close together. But as we entered campus on Monday, with our team coming back, our guys were like, kids in a candy shop, just to be able to spend time with each other again.
Yeah, no question about it. And I think that's what a lot of people are craving. Coach, of the many things that has to be adjusted in all this, certainly recruiting is right at the top of the list. How have you guys adjusted? And I don't want specifics and details that you don't want to talk about, but in general, how is your recruiting adjusted outside of what NCAA calendar would be, just the intention of your recruiting? And what have you learned about that? Maybe some ways that you never thought of before would be creative ways to be able to use.
No, I think it's an interesting question, because I think all of us had to adjust, throughout the country. And you go back to the way that it was done, where you get some people excited about your school, and you get them on campus, with family members or coaches or people that are close to them, and you show them your place and you spend time with them, and then they go on their way. Maybe they'll come back one other time, and you get the interest level where, to get all that accomplished with one recruit, it took 6 or 7 Zoom calls, to be able to get, so that was probably the biggest difference, was organizing that and making sure they saw all the pieces of your university, and getting their mom and dad on, or their family members, whoever's close to them. And so we had to really had to rethink how we were going to sell, this great place. And I think our staff did a great job, put it together, and we pivoted pretty quickly, and then we've pivoted probably 3 times during it when we found out that there was a better way to do it. And to us, I mean, I think for all of us, like you said, as coaches, it's like you get entrenched in a way to do things, and you have to really think outside the box this way. And recruiting's gone well. I think we're fortunate in the sense where we have everybody that was going to play for us this year coming back to play for us next year. So we're fortunate that way, and we've adjusted our recruiting to make sure that we're not oversaturating in any position, which has been really nice to be able to do. And to be honest with you, Glenn, the kids I feel most for are the seniors of high school seniors in the class of 21. Man, I feel so bad for those kids because, I mean, they missed. You and I both know, like they missed 3 cycles. They missed the spring cycle, they missed the summer cycle, and now many of them. I think we counted 27 states this morning that are playing football this fall. For the other states, I mean, they're not playing until the spring, and those poor kids missed. They missed another cycle of fall football. So,
and even if you're not even talking about
them and their families,
the specific games in the senior year and all those moments that you think about, not even to mention the off the field stuff, but then on top of it, you talk about opportunity, right? So, my dad used to say, Glenn, you can't put 2 pounds of sausage in a 1 pound casing. At some point there's going to be an influx. I know, right? New England logic right there. But at some point there's going to be an influx and the logistics of how that's going to follow this high school senior class and even your current senior class at your university. It's going to be an adjustment, no doubt. But I know you mentioned, you don't want to perceive that you're an old guy. You are a little long in the tooth in terms of you've been at one place for a long time, and I think that's a great thing. I think to be an institution of an institution is the ultimate dream. But as I watch your career, I realize, well, if you're going to be at a place like 8-9 years like you are, or a decade or so like we are, there's a good chance that there's going to be some great leaders that come into and out of different roles. And, for us here, I was blessed to be able to have a guy like Steve Fritz, who was here for like 46 years as the athletic director. And then when he retired, Phil Esten, we both got new bosses in 2018, I believe. Phil Esten came in and has led this place in unbelievable ways and been refreshing and insightful for me and for you in the same year. AD Vicky Chun got there. And so how have you, in working with Vicky, how have you adjusted and learned to adapt to different leadership styles? And what are some of the positives that you see coming out of that in the first 1.5 years or 2 years, Tony?
No, it's so important. I mean, like you mentioned, to be at a place for a long time, I'm very fortunate. And when I got hired here, I was really fortunate to have a guy by the name of Caruso, who I know you know.
Absolutely.
Coach Koza was here. I mean, a legend in the game, a college football Hall of Famer. I mean, he was at Yale as head coach for 32 years. I mean, he's an institution. And I was fortunate enough for my first 6 seasons for Coach Koza to be around. And the athletic director at the time was a guy named Tom Beckett, who did a great job here at Yale. I was fortunate enough that he hired me and trusted me in the program and at a young age. And Tom was really respected and also understood the significance of a guy like Coach Koza. And what he let Coach Koza do when he retired was keep his office. And he knew the impact he could make on, coaches. And I was fortunate in my first 6 seasons as we built this to have Coach Koza around. He's out of practice a couple of days a week, and he'd come up the office and he'd talk with us as coaches a couple of days a week. And so a lot of the growing pains that we felt and just questions, I was able to bounce them off of, one of the legends of the game, and just an extraordinary man. And, him and Tom was a great mentor as well. And so when Tom retired and Coach Koza passed away, there was we had obviously grown as a program. And, you're always a little nervous as they hire a new
Sure.
athletic director. And, we hit a home run here at Yale. I mean, we're very fortunate that Vicky came in and she's brought an unbelievable staff with her, who really helped us elevate. They've helped us elevate in a lot of ways, and we're very fortunate. I mean, she really understands the importance of football, and she also is a huge fan. I couldn't imagine anyone being more supportive than she is. So we're just very, 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 very blessed to have her here. And, I think her leadership is, she's done a really nice job departmentally and also with the students in her leadership style. And, and surrounded herself with some really good people that have helped us grow as a department and, us grow as a football program.
I think that same curiousness, just listening to you in that last minute, that same curiousness that we hope that inquisitive nature that we hope our kids have in all this. It's kind of the same thing. If you see, we've both been around it, and the people listening out there have been around it, and they've seen it for a long time, where when a leader comes in, when a Vicky comes in, when Phil Esten comes in, if both sides are looking for thoughtful and creative solutions and ways, it's amazing at the things you don't even know can be done. I look at what Phil Esten has done, guiding us for his first 18 months have been unbelievable. You have one situation where the league involuntarily dismisses, and then you have an opportunity to get picked up by a Division I league, and his guidance and all that's been amazing. But I also realize, probably as kind of you're saying with Miss Chun, is that the growth and the dovetailing of both cultures, because you have your culture, your leadership style, and it's obviously working really, really well. She has hers, and it too is working tremendously well. So blending those together, as long as you have two factions that are curious, it seems to work out pretty well, doesn't it?
It sure does, and you look at the success, of the programs at Yale since Vicky's been here, and she's just helped us elevate. She's dealt with some crisis situations, and has always helped us get better coming out of those, which has been, as you know, that's a true test of a leader.
So as we wrap it up, Coach, I got to ask you, every time I talk to someone, and this has been awesome. I actually didn't think it would quite go this long, but you put a microphone in front of two Italian football coaches, it's going to go a long time. So if you were to look back and say, I had no idea that this would be a benefit of the situation we're going through. So if you look back 5 months ago when COVID really forced us to change the way we do things, and you had no idea it was going to happen, what is one or what are two positive unintended consequences that you, your leadership staff, your football program have gotten out of a very, very difficult time?
I think for all of us here at Yale, we had this conversation really as a team a few weeks back, and I posed to them a very similar question. And we had talked about the staff first, and I posed to the team a very similar question, and said, what's the thing that from this situation that you appreciate most, or you've come to find out most, and in everything related back to time being together, how precious it is, the moments we spend together, and how we use the term "be where your feet are" with our players all the time, and it's appropriate here. I'm sure it's appropriate at your school too, because these kids are balancing so much academically and so much athletically, and I say to them as a parent or as a father or as a husband someday, when you go home, you're going to want to be present with your family. Don't be doing your work, and don't be looking at other things. Be there for them, because that's what's important. And when you're on the football field, be there. And when you're in class, be there. But it's the time that you spend with others. And I think a lot of times it was one of those things where everyone appreciated it, but no one knew how important it was until it's taken from you, kind of like you were talking about with the weight room. So our team really sat and we talked, and it was almost to a guy where that was, it was just the time we spend has to be really meaningful, because it can get taken from you at any time, and you really appreciate it. And I think that, for us at Yale, and for me as a coach and as a person, that's been really the take home from this last 6 months for me, is you invest in relationships, but you really realize how important that is in moments like this, because like you said, just the ability to spend time with others is so important. And I think the other thing too that we pulled from the situation in the pandemic, and in getting things from a recruiting point of view, is how important it is, how really vitally important it is to get to know the people that you're recruiting, because you're making an investment. We talk about it all the time, and we're making an investment in them, and they're making an investment in us. And one of the things that this has done for us is we've just had so many more touch points in recruiting with players and families, and just because we've had to, that you feel like you know people better without even spending time with them, which may not sound the right way of putting it, but we've just spent so much more time with people. And we've said, hey, listen, even though the Zoom world, hopefully for us with a vaccine, hopefully is slows down and it gets back to much more personal, but the Zoom piece of it, the ability to FaceTime, whatever it might be, that has a purpose, and it'll hopefully help you get a better understanding of each other.
I think you're right. And you know what? If we really truly believe that, our jobs are to make sure that we use the sport we love of football to be able to teach life lessons, right? So they can be the best fathers and husbands and leaders of people that they could be. But when you say an investment, it's exactly that, because quite simply, our greatest commodity is time. And so for us, not just to be there, but while we are there, to your point, to be able to have a depth and a breadth of intention to that conversation, I have to believe is going to be one of the great things that comes out of a very, very tumultuous time that has us all on our heels right now. But Tony, like I said, this could go on forever. I just got to say thanks so much for taking time to be on the podcast. This has been fantastic.
Thanks, Glenn. Have a great day.
You got it. And for everyone who's out there, you can feel free to follow us on both Twitter and Instagram. 1Q Leadership. That's the number 1, letter Q. Leadership is the tag. And thank you for taking your time and an intention with your time today to listen to Coach Reno and to think about your role in leadership and what we can do, whether our job is to coach the sport, to administrate the sport, or to simply be in the sport. To make everybody's life better. And remember, if you're doing it right, you're coaching football for life. I'm Glenn Caruso for Ty Brown and the One Question Leadership Podcast. Make it a great day.
This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.